Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of January 5th, 2025. Happy New Year! I hope you enjoyed your holidays and got some downtime. I certainly did. I have kept somewhat to my commitment to work less. First, we're going to take a look back at some astrology in action stories. So one of the big transits of the year has been Jupiter in Gemini in a square with Saturn in Pisces. Jupiter and Saturn are opposite principles. Jupiter expands, Saturn contracts. Jupiter is the kind teacher, Saturn is the stern teacher. Jupiter invests in, it's considered a benefic, that is life-bringing, it aids to life. Now, everything has a shadow, and shadow Jupiter energies can be bloviating or having a God complex and that sort of thing. Saturn is a malefic, and it takes away from life, but Saturn brings earned success with hard work. It's about effort, and it also brings consequences. It's the Lord of Karma. We need both of these to keep things in check, and they're now in a 10th square in two signs that are the mutable signs. Gemini is an air sign. Air communicates and air connects. It does things twice. It's what's called double-bodied. Its glyph is the twins, meaning there are two of them. I personally have Mars and Venus in Gemini, and I know sometimes I need to do things twice and just get a laugh from it as much as I can. It's not so fun when you have to learn the same lesson twice, but that's life. The air signs of Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are humane. They're people-oriented. They're intellectual. It's about communication as a tool. They're humanitarian. So what air signs do is they use thoughts, words, ideas that either can bring people together, bridge conflicts, solve problems, or cause problems and create controversy. Pisces is a mutable water sign. Pisces is more internal. And one of the big things we've seen with Saturn and Pisces has been literal storms causing all kinds of problems throughout the world. Saturn is hardship and Pisces water. Also, we've seen, and this is traditionally people undergoing extreme forms of hardship that really show us how cruel people can be, like we've been seeing in these wars. Now, due to retrogrades, Jupiter and Saturn will be in square 3 times. The first one was April 19th. The second one was December 24th. So Christmas Eve, the aspect perfected. Now, both these planets move slowly, so they've been getting tighter and tighter. This aspect has really been in orb since around July. They'll remain in orb for another month or so, and then come back together for the last square of this cycle, June 15th, but they will both change signs, and we'll talk about that closer to when that's happening. Now, Mercury is the trickster, and it entered the sign of Sagittarius on November 2nd, right before the U.S. election. Mercury rules communications, both written, oral, and like physical paperwork and documents and things like that, including ballots. It also has to do with the air. And Sagittarius is a bestial sign. And the bestial signs are represented, their glyphs have animals. And Sagittarius, it looks like a centaur. It's half man and half horse. And it's the archer. It has that arrow that it's ready to sling. I love Sagittarius energy. It's fiery, feisty, like quick storytelling, quick jokes. Sagittarius has got jokes and it's willing to take risks. Now on the shadow, it has the energy of foot in mouth disease. Now, typically Mercury stays in a sign for 3 weeks, but because of the Mercury retrograde where the planet slows down, then goes in reverse over old territory where retrogrades pull the tape back so that we can see what's underneath. So that retrograde started November 25th, and then the tape went back down December 16th, where we went over old territory again. Now, on January 2nd, the secret will be out, per se, because Mercury will be back in new territory and will share maybe what it learned during the retrograde phase that has not already been exposed. And this has been a really interesting thing. And I talked about it last time because it brought in this chart pattern called a mutable T-square, where Mercury came in Sagittarius opposite Jupiter and Gemini. They're both squaring Saturn and Pisces. So just notice how people have been talking so much, or through communications, whatever kind of communications, and they may be even blown up a bit. And then the empty spaces in Virgo, and people have gotten incredibly critical in some ways. And I talked about it. You can go listen last week, I think it was. You can re-listen to that if you want to know about, because Mercury and Sag and Jupiter and Gemini are in the signs of, in their detriment, but each other's homes where they can, I've quoted Jen Zart. I heard it from her. She heard it from someone else. I can't remember who, but two drunks walk themselves into a bar together. So they can help each other, but in ways that might not be the best. So what it can be is the two drunks at the end of the bar egging each other on, getting them into more and more, digging a ditch deeper and deeper and deeper. And they don't realize it as they're going on and on and on. But Saturn in Pisces is sitting on the side, ready to issue the consequences of their actions. And shoot it out in Virgo, which will give us the details and have people held accountable. So that's like a big thing about this action. And Mercury interacted with that T-square on December 26th. So 2 days after the Jupiter-Saturn square, Mercury comes in and interacts. And we really see things more clearly when one of these personal planets is involved. And the personal planets are the planets through Mars. Jupiter and Saturn are social. They're about the bigger society. This is why the energy is so intense. I mean, it's incredible. In addition to this energy, which is now releasing, we have Mars in Leo, stationed to go retrograde on December 6th. Mars entered Leo right before the election, and it goes retrograde December 6th through February 23rd. And it starts in the sign of Leo, which is bestial, and it's fixed energy where, people can really hold their positions and be ready to fight, attack, and engage in conflict. And Mars has been backing up to have a second opposition with Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is the planet of power dynamics. It also unearths things, humiliates, exposes, heals. Pluto's very complex, and it has to do with mass influence. It rules catastrophes. I mean, we've been seeing these volcanoes going off, lightning strikes, intense storms. I mean, this energy is so intense. Now, this perfects on January 2nd or 3rd, depending on where you live. But this energy, this opposition is so intense, and oppositions come in through other people. And we've seen Leo-type figures like Elon Musk, who has been going to war with the MAGA faithful. And this whole war erupted around December 22nd was the big event that led into this chaos. You may not have heard about it because it's the holidays. On this date, Donald Trump announced that a man named Sriram Krishnan, I'm sure I said his name wrong, apologies, but that he is going to be the senior White House policy advisor on artificial intelligence in the incoming administration. And this started a big conversation about, number one, H-1B visas, and number two, a lot of anti-Indian hate. But let's talk about the H-1B visas. These visas allow corporations to bring in foreign workers from other countries to do jobs. A lot of the tech industry uses this foreign labor. Now, it allows them to pay people less, and they're almost like indentured servants because they're here on these visas and they can't just move companies because they've been sponsored. And the nativist arm of the MAGA movement doesn't want any immigrants coming in and wants everyone kicked out for various reasons. And they started to go to war with Elon and this other man, Vivek Ramaswamy, they're both tech billionaires who have been assigned to lead up this department in the government that's going to, dismantle the U.S. government. And they talked about how we absolutely need to bring in these foreign workers. And this Vivek Ramaswamy talked about how it's a culture problem that America does not have the best and the brightest workers to work at these companies because of the TV shows we watch. And he went all into Saved by the Bell and the show that Urkel was on. You can Google it to find out more. But this is Mars retrograde in Leo. He used these entertainment shows, Leo, to attack Mars, American people. The United States natal chart is a Sagittarius rising, which makes Jupiter our chart ruler. And Jupiter is now in Gemini, the sign of its detriment, where it's in exile. And essentially what he said was that people of color are better than white Americans. This was the subtext that he's telling people involved in a white supremacist movement. He said that Black people are better than in sports and Asian people are smarter, is essentially what he told these people. And they went bananas. It got so nasty. And Elon even said he would die on the hill of H-1B visas. Now, these people who have voted for Trump, invested in Trump, expected him to support them and said that Trump was going to support them. Well, Trump came out and reversed his previous positions. Retrogrades bring reversals that he is in support of H-1B visas now because Elon invested over $200 million in his election. He didn't say that, but essentially, Elon appears to have won this stage of this fight. But this is what happened with this big transit. And the reason I'm bringing it to your attention is because Mercury in Sagittarius opposite Jupiter in Gemini, this is the communications we've seen out in public, and this is the intensity of it. But there's also a lot of things going on underneath. And elections are competitions. Mars rules competition. And when the US election happened, Mars was in the shadow of its retrograde, suggesting that things could be reversed or collapsed or something could go on. I wrote a blog about it. You can go to my website, astrologybyceleste.com. But I think there is a good chance that there was election interference, and the government has already issued sanctions on Iran as well as Russia for their meddling in our election. But I think there's more, or there's something coming that may seem out of nowhere, but it is not out of nowhere. And you can see it in these transits where we may not know yet who is going to be the next president. I still think it could be Kamala Harris. We shall see. I could be totally wrong, but with Trump causing all of this instability, and it may have nothing to do with the fact that he's causing all of this instability, talking about these 15% tariffs and going to war with Panama and Canada and Greenland. And one of the things he said out loud is now how everybody wants to be his friends. And he's got all these business leaders going down to Mar-a-Lago and talking with him. And my question is, what is he offering them? Is it legal? That could be something that comes up. It could be stuff that happened during the election. It could be about the insurrection. I don't know. But I do think the election may not be settled. And you can listen to Kenny Rogers' song, The Gambler, about how you better know when to hold them, know when to walk away. But the key thing is you never count your money while you're sitting at the table. You wait till the dealing's done, which I would say would be the dealing's done after Inauguration Day. So I hope that made sense and gave you a picture of how this energy we're seeing on a bigger world stage that has the consequences of changing things. We are at a point of a global reset. The nodes of the moon move backwards through the zodiac. And while all of this is going on, the north node is at 0 degrees of Aries. This is a world point where things have significance. They move backwards through the zodiac. So it's almost like we're having this reset. And then, I'll talk more about that in a moment. Now, there have been a bunch of big events, plane crashes, tsunamis. There was a terrorist attack. Actually, maybe they are related. There was something about ISIS. A guy drove a truck into Bourbon Street. This came to me as one of my downloads earlier this year that something was going to happen in New Orleans. I just put that together. Okay, anyway, this was this terrorist attack that happened in New Orleans where a guy drove a truck on New Year's Eve, and he killed a bunch of people. It's a horror show. There was a Tesla that exploded outside of Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, and a guy pushed someone in the New York City subway onto the tracks, and there were a couple other events in New York that were stabbings and things. Mars attacks, it rules sharp objects like knives. So I don't know if these are all coordinated. I'm recording this on January 1st around 7 p.m. Pacific time. At this time, the FBI and Homeland Security are still investigating if these actions are related or they're just people taking action on their own. But the guy who drove the truck down Bourbon Street rented it from, I think it's called Turo, where you can just rent people's personal vehicles. That's also interesting related to the astrology because Mercury went direct. Mercury rules cars in Sagittarius trine Mars retrograde in Leo. So they're renting personal vehicles, Mercury, for a tax Mars. That Tesla was rented through the same app. This energy is so volatile. And on Friday, this is the big thing that I want to bring your attention to as well. January 3rd, the House of Representatives is supposed to vote on who will be the Speaker of the House. It is assumed it will be the Republican Mike Johnson. Months ago, I saw Hakeem Jeffries as the Speaker of the House. I could be wrong, but I will not be surprised if something happens. Now, it could be delays due to travel. Like, I'm sure the Democrats are smart enough to have known everybody needs to be in Washington, D.C. Thursday or before, just in case, so that there's no problem with this vote. Every single one of us needs to be here and ready. I assume that's what Hakeem Jeffries told the Democrats. They are in sync. The Republicans are in chaos. And I kept getting something about two Nancys. Both have something on their face. One is an egg and the other is a smile. Nancy Mace is a Republican and Nancy Pelosi is a Democrat. We'll see which one has which. But I've got a feeling something's going to go skedaddle. And it's all about this mutable T-square where two drunks walk themselves into a bar and they can wind up with that square to Saturn and Pisces, which is about accountability and consequences, because the empty space is in Virgo. They wind up out on the street, in a prison cell, in the poorhouse. You can see these things happening with people maybe in your own life or on a TV show you're watching or in the news in multiple ways. But I'm focused on this, what's going on in Washington, D.C. The Birthdate Company makes amazing products, and I am a proud affiliate. I especially love the Birthdate book. It's a fully personalized, beautiful, and unique reading of your birth chart with over 70 pages of detailed horoscope analysis. It is such high quality. I absolutely love it. They also make amazing birthdate candles. You can get it for yourself or as a gift for someone else. So check out the store and use my coupon code Celeste10 for a 10% discount. Go to bit.ly/3PW3NFM. You can find that in the link in the show notes. Enjoy. The theme of this week is Clash of the Titans, and there are three big things I want you to think about as you navigate this week. The first is that Mars will retrograde back into the sign of Cancer from January 6th through February 23rd. When a planet enters the sign, it takes a little bit for people to adjust to the energy, and it kind of can do the herky-jerky a little bit. And with a retrograde, we know this can bring conflict, delays, the collapse of something contemplated, reversals. And 29 Cancer is a degree of crisis and decay. The 29th degree is the last degree of the signs. The new moon before the election in November had Mars at this same degree, 29 Cancer, opposite Pluto at 29 Capricorn, that last degree of crisis and decay in the sign of government and big business. That's Capricorn. Cancer rules home, family, and foundations. You can think about home security with Cancer. It's nativistic. It can be concerned about just, my family, my tribe. We're seeing this around the world where people are feeling like, ooh, we want to protect our traditions, Capricorn, and the things that we feel are part of our culture's heritage and exclude others. And January 6th is important for the U.S. We have the anniversary of the insurrection, but that's the date the election is certified. So I am going to be curious to see, does this go off without a hitch? I wouldn't be surprised if there is something coming about disqualification, but it might not be here. We shall see what goes on that day. But if Hakeem Jeffries has become speaker, we'll see how this happens. Maybe I'm all wrong. It's just everything's hunky-dory. It's just going to go smooth sailing, but I don't think so. On February 23rd, Mars is going to go direct at 17 degrees of Cancer. So if you have anything, it's about 17 degrees of the cardinal signs that would be Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, or Libra. I just want you to be aware that Mars can bring problems. This is a really hard chance for me. I need to buckle up. I should just really go on vacation for until February 23rd because my moon's at 17 Aries. So this Mars is squaring my moon in my public 10th house. It's my chart ruler. I have to be very careful and protective of my Aries moon energy because it can be a little impulsive or like, ooh, am I going to do something that hurts myself by either like not paying attention and cutting myself with a knife in the kitchen or starting a kitchen fire? Cancer is associated with the home. Mars rules fire. Am I going to do something that damages my career in some way? I love to take some risks on my threads and posting things, but I have to be really mindful that retrogrades can bring problems and conflicts. Retrogrades are an affliction, and this is why it's so important that during these time periods, we go internal and reflect and review and revisit and revise rather than start something new because there is the potential for conflict, delays, collapse, and all of those kinds of things. I think a big story that we're going to be hearing, notice if you're at work and someone is talking about how they, a family member, or you're seeing this on the news or what have you, has norovirus or some kind of stomach thing, because a lot of people travel during vacation, during the holidays, and will likely bring back some kind of illness because we're seeing a real spike in these norovirus cases where it's stomach upset and digestive system. Cancer rules the stomach. There's also been a lot of bird flu talk. That is the Mercury in Sagittarius square Saturn in Pisces. Mercury rules birds. Sagittarius is a fire sign that you can associate with fevers. And square Saturn in Pisces, hardship due to Pisces can be like illness, where you're in a weakened state. So 2 things we're going to be hearing about potentially, maybe not, but continue to hear about these increases of bird flu and norovirus cases, illnesses. So do whatever you can to protect yourself because Mars re-enters Cancer, moving into a trine with Neptune at 27 Pisces. And Neptune, that's an image of just sickness spreading and spreading and spreading. Mars retrograde in Cancer, this malefic in the sign of its fall, where it's weakened and it's spreading disease all over the place. That can be what we see. We can see conflict as well. But Cancer is a yin sign, so the battle can be more within than during the Leo phase, where the battle was more external. So keep that in mind. But really, if you have planets around 17 degrees of cardinal signs, just be extra careful would be my advice. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that we have a first quarter moon at 16 degrees of Aries on January 6th. The sun in Capricorn is squaring the moon in Aries. First quarter moons are times of actions. Capricorn rules governments. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's fiery, feisty, competitive, at times rude, impulsive, pioneering, challenging, can be childlike, joyful, and funny. These are all things associated with Aries. And so this is the day of the certification. So keep that in mind that this energy is going on. But Neptune is at the top of the chart. Neptune is the fog, it's the mist, it's disinformation, something we cannot see clearly. It's like pea soup thick fog. We can't see clearly about what is going on. Now, this is a really important first quarter moon as well because it relates back to the lunar phase family that began on April 8th of 2024 at 19 degrees of Aries, where the sun and the moon were both in the sign of Aries. And this solar eclipse was conjunct Chiron in Aries. Chiron is the wounded healer, where wounds may be self-inflicted, so keep that in mind. And there can also be wounds to the eyes or the head. Aries rules the head. So this first quarter moon is in that same family. So if we see, let's hope we don't see this happen, but if you see any kind of like fist fight breaking out, now that we have the sun in Capricorn square the moon in Aries and we're focusing in on government, this is at 16 degrees on January 6, 2025. But things seeded back in the year before, April 8th, could have a pivot point at this time. And that solar eclipse was really important because it went across America, signaling that big changes were coming to the country. The full moon of this phase is going to be on October 6, 2025, where the sun is in Libra and the moon is in Aries. This could be something about legal stuff. They're both at 14 degrees. The last quarter moon, when the sun is in Cancer and the moon is in Aries on July 7th, 2026, they're both at 15 degrees. So that's the cycle. One thing I want to note is I think we may be hearing something about Jeff Bezos. If the chart we have for him is right, this activation could bring him some karma or consequences about the way he conducts his business. We shall see. I could be totally wrong, but I'm keeping an eye on him for all of these dates. At the first quarter moon, the sun is at 16 degrees of Capricorn, which corresponds to the Three of Pentacles tarot card. This is a card of collaboration. There are three people in some kind of, it looks like church in a chamber potentially that are talking together. I love this card's energy. You can think about 3 heads are better than one. A young woman surreptitiously bathing in the nude is the Sabian symbol. So you can think about releasing inhibitions, enjoying your body. The moon at 16 Aries corresponds to the 3 of Wands, which is a card of foresight and expansion. It's someone standing on a beach looking overseas. The Sabian symbol is 2 prim spinsters sitting together in silence. This can be about people who can communicate without words, being comfortable with each other, loosening up, or even feeling excluded. So when I bring this all together, I'm getting the image of 2 teams competing because Aries competes and one is playing chess and the other is playing tic-tac-toe. We'll see how that shows up in the collective. The last thing I want to make you aware of is that the North Node will enter the sign of Pisces on Saturday, January 11th, for 18 months. The lunar nodes speak to the collective call we are all dealing with. And now Pisces and Virgo are really about health and well-being. The nodes move backwards through the zodiac, and they move about 3 minutes a day. It's very, very slow. So we go from the first degree of the zodiac to the last degree of the zodiac. It's very destabilizing, that feeling of going backwards. Like the themes will change completely from this. Collectively, we've been dealing with Aries and Libra energy, the North Node in Aries, amplifying conflict, competition, pioneering, independence. The South Node in Libra, a drain on art, culture. We had the strikes, the Hollywood strikes, diplomacy. All of these things have been so much harder. Relationships. Almost everyone over the last 18 months has had a relationship of some sort, whether it's work, friendships, a marriage, a dating, have some kind of breakdown. Now the collective work, the nodes are about what we're collectively working on, moves into the signs where the North Node is in Pisces and the South Node is in Virgo. So what do we want to release? We want to release the South Node. We want to release, especially the shadow energies of the South Node. Overworking, hyper-perfectionism, being overly critical of ourselves and others, nitpicking, this sort of thing, anxiety. And the North Node is in Pisces, amplifying spirituality, seeing ourselves all as one on the positive. It's a great time to think about deepening your psychic skills. You maybe want to get a new tarot deck or oracle card deck because there is this opportunity to connect with the divine with Pisces. With Pisces, North Node in Pisces is like walk by faith, not by sight. And we've got to balance these 2 energies where there is so much coming at us, which is confusing or meant to deceive. The South Node in Virgo can help us do reality checks. Does this make sense? Let's unpack it a little bit and look at all these pieces. Do they add up to the message we're getting? That is something. We're going to be dealing with health and sickness. Virgo rules the physical health. We can think about Pisces, the mental health. Yeah, these are topics that are going to be big during this time. Pisces rules peace. So I'm really hoping, if it hasn't already happened, the ceasefire in Gaza will happen. This would be a perfect day when the nodes switch signs. We shall see. Now, the North Node enters Pisces and is already in orb with Neptune, which is just even magnifying these Piscean themes more. Neptune rules the oceans. We're going to be seeing the amplification of themes about faith, conspiracies just going out of control, confusion, and escapism through drugs or other things. But this offers us a really great opportunity to get more spiritual in our own lives and think about what are our routines and rituals to support our spirituality. If you are embarking on a new journey, experiencing a major life event, feeling stuck, trying to make a difficult decision, or just looking to make positive changes, astrology can provide life-changing insights. There are several ways to work with me. You can come for a 60 or 90-minute astrology consultation depending on your needs. Engage in longer-term cosmic success coaching where we work together on a 3-month basis to help you overcome blocks, improve your life satisfaction, build better relationships, accomplish your career goals, and understand yourself better using the tool of astrology. Or mystic mentoring if you're an aspiring astrologer and want help with chart analysis techniques. Go to astrologybyceleste.com to check out my offerings. If you have any questions, you can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com. On Sunday, the word of the day is ANTSY. We start the day with the moon conjunct Neptune, and then the Aries moon will start at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So the moon conjunct Neptune, like people can feel a little adrift, and then it moves into Aries, and then like there's this internal pull to like kind of do something. And the North Node is conjunct 0 Aries. So there's an amplification of this kind of energy where you just kind of feel a little bit of maybe ants in your pants and you want to do something. So just be aware of that. Maybe just get up and go for a walk, do some exercise. Yeah, moving your body is the best way to dispel this extra energy. On Monday, the word of the day is blindsided. Mars retrograde enters Cancer at 29 degrees at 2:43 a.m. Pacific time. There may be bad storms some places. Very foggy as well with Neptune at the top of the chart for the United States. And so just be really, really careful driving, especially for people who have been on holiday. It's like your first day back in the office. Be careful because there's an amplified energy for especially car accidents because Mercury in Sagittarius is square Neptune and Pisces on this day. They're both at 27 degrees. So if you have something in your chart near that, you're more likely to have an issue. Mercury rules cars. It's in detriment in Sagittarius. It rules our thinking processes. Neptune is foggy, so distraction could lead to a problem. And with the moon in Aries, road rage is a thing that could happen on this day because there's the first quarter moon at 16 Aries at 3:56 p.m. Pacific time, where this is when the people get out of their cars and start screaming at each other or hitting each other and all this kind of stuff. And the moon will meet Chiron in Aries. So this is like when someone gets popped in the face. So don't let it be you, and be mindful that this energy is really janky. Check your blind spot before changing lanes. On Tuesday, the word of the day is food fight. The moon will square Mars in Cancer, both at that 29th anaretic degree. This could be people in a cafeteria. Cancer rules the stomach, like high school food fight is what I'm getting. with this, where people slinging things at each other. I mean, it's not funny, but anyway, the Taurus moon begins at 2:11 p.m. Pacific time. Now, this can be when the energy calms down a little bit. The moon is exalted in Taurus, where it is lifted up, has a special seat at the table. Calmer heads can prevail. People slow down. Taurus is the bull that moves a little bit more slowly. Now, it also can get very entrenched in whatever it's feeling at that time, but think about the Taurus energy of stability and grounding. You can even rub your feet in some grass if that's appropriate. Hug a tree. On Wednesday, the word of the day is listen. Mercury enters the sign of Capricorn at 2:29 a.m. Pacific time. Mercury will stay in Capricorn from January 8th through 27th. So this is a huge reprieve, this chaotic, communicative, detrimental energy that we've been experiencing, where the nervous energy or chatter in your head, or how we're seeing people, spouting off, this should calm down a bit because Capricorn's a yin sign, so it's more internal. People are getting more grounded and practical, planning, considering a step-by-step process to achieve your goals is something you can think about with this. There will be some kind of news related to Capricorn topics. When a planet enters a sign, in the collective, we will see something that relates to this. So notice, if you see anything about the elderly, big businesses, governments that captures your eye, there's something about it that it's a little different than the daily news that we have. Or you can see Capricorn is the sea goat. Notice if you see some goats or someone talking about they're the goat, greatest of all time kind of energy. Mercury will square the nodes. So this is Mercury's on a world point. The nodes are on world points. What is this communication? Listen carefully to what you are hearing. There's probably something important. What you're hearing or reading is important. The Capricorn sun will square Chiron in Aries at 19 Aries. What building is damaged is what I wrote down. Capricorn rules buildings. I put an old leader. It doesn't have to be an old leader. It could be like a CEO has a headache or something like that could come up. Is there an announcement about a recall of something because of salmonella or, one of these other things? Or a ship, is the CEO of a cruise ship talking about how they're so sorry that everybody got the norovirus on their boat. On Thursday, the word of the day is doubles. The Gemini moon begins at 5:06 p.m. Pacific time. Gemini likes to do things twice, and this is an air moon. Air encourages us to communicate and connect. Great time for journaling. What is the news? Gemini rules reporters. On Friday, the word of the day is joyous. The gibbous moon at 2:19 a.m. Pacific time starts at 5 Gemini. And then the moon and Jupiter meet at 12 degrees on this day. This could be something about a ceasefire, hostages released, something positive news somewhere that a lot of people, the moon rules the people, and Jupiter is joyful and celebratory. We'll see what happens on this day. This could also be Jupiter rules legal affairs. So there could be something. I'm getting the feeling that it's something joyous. Well, at least for some people. For others, it may not feel so great because after the moon meets Jupiter, it's going to square Saturn. So one person's joyous energy could be another person's disappointment. So we'll see what happens with this. On Saturday, the word of the day is intuition. This is a great time to do a body scan. Start scanning yourself from head to toe. You might want to consider doing 40 Days of Spirit, which is the spiritual psychic development program. My colleague and friend Tiffany Herlick has created this, and I'm an affiliate for it. So I'll put a link in the show notes, but it's incredible. It's helped me deepen my intuition and expand my psychic skills. The North Node enters Pisces at 3:01 p.m. on January 11th until July 26th, 2026. Now remember, the nodes move backwards, so it enters at 29 degrees of Pisces, a degree of crisis and decay. There could be bad storms with this. Also, outages of social media or something that could be going on with this energy. You can go to my website, and I did a talk for OPA about the North Node in Pisces if you want to dive in deeper. It's on my workshops page, and you can get the recording. It's only $15, and it gives you an in-depth review of the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. So the South Node will be at 29 Virgo. Nodes are always 180 degrees apart, but on the same axis. The moon will enter the sign of Cancer at 8:23 p.m. Pacific time. The moon is at home in the sign where it can feel. So if something goes down, people may be crying because their favorite site is down or something like that. Could be something that comes up. Also, maybe it's tears of joy. We shall see what happens. I hope it's something beautiful and joyous, but bad weather is quite possible with Mars in Cancer and Saturn, the North Node, and Neptune in Pisces. There's a big energetic shift. And lots of rain and wind could be on the horizon around this time. So just keep that in mind. Take an umbrella. Don't click links without being sure you trust who they're coming from. And have a beautiful, 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 I hope this week and this 2025, this year, is a year of opportunity. There's so many great things that are possible. There's so much changing energy. So keep that in mind, and let's not move through despair. Let's have faith. I am going to walk by faith, not by sight. So that's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories about what has gone on, or let me know how the daily themes are playing out for you. Take care, and I'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.